Here we're going to demonstrate the Twitter simulator built as project for part 2 of the DOS course at the University of Florida, fall of 2020. Our server here is already running. We have an existing user C, registered into the system but currently offline. What we're going to do first is register 2 new users. So we register one new user with username A and we register another new user with username B. Now we're gonna send out some tweets from username A. So they select the tweet option and they tweet demo tweet. Then they tweet again, then they say demo hashtag whatever test, and then they tweet again saying demo mention at C. Now if we go back to user B, we're going to try and follow a user through user B. So they're going to select option 6, which is follow user. They see the users that they can follow. They select user A, and now they're following user A. Now say they want to retweet something, so they select the retweet option. They see their feed, which is all the tweets sent out by user A, and now they can select any of these tweets to retweet. So say they select tweet number 3, and that tweet is sent. Now if we go back to our original user, which was pre-registered, we can display that if you're a pre-registered user, you also have the option to log into the system. So select option number 2. You can enter your username and your password, and you're logged into the system. Now what user C is going to do first is look at their mentions, which is option 4. When they do that, you can see that the 2 tweets sent by A and B from B, which is a retweet of A, both mention C, and they both show up in this search query. If they search for a hashtag, they can search for hashtag test, and they can see that the tweet containing hashtag test shows up in the search results. Now say they also want to follow a user, they can choose to follow them. User A and B are shown as followable. They select option 2 to follow user B. Now they're successfully following user B. And now if they go to their feed and they want to look at their feed, all the tweets from user B, whether they're original tweets or retweets, will show up in their feed. So this is essentially a basic overview of the flow where you can send out tweets, send out retweets, query for hashtags, check your mentions, follow other people, subscribe to their tweets, view your feed, and so on. Now let's move on to an overview of the code. This part first is our code for the server. The server code is written in F#. It makes use of WebSockets and JSON to communicate between itself and the clients. So initially what you're seeing at the beginning in this section here is our database. Essentially we're utilizing data tables to store our information, for example user data, information about tweets, and so on. We have several relations established and so on. This is a JSON provider that we are implementing here, which defines the structure of our messages which go back and forth between our server and our client, and this is our actual WebSocket method implementation. Before we get into that, I will take you to the bottom of the code, and this is essentially our entry point where we start the web server, and this triggers our app, which provides a handshake into the WebSocket implementation itself. Looking at the WebSocket implementation, obviously we get the WebSocket instance and the HTTP context. Once we receive a message into the WebSocket, this loop indicates that we're listening for messages indefinitely. We read whatever message we get into the WebSocket, and then we match the type of message, whether it's an actual command or it's a close message, which you will see just in 1 second here, which is to close the connection. But the primary logic resides within obviously the actual commands, which is here. So we parse our JSON message that has come in, we extract our command from it, and based on the command we match as to what kind of operation the client is wanting to perform, whether they want to register as a new user, whether they would like to log in. Subsequently, you also have options when they want to log out, when they want to send a tweet, when they want to query for a particular hashtag, when they want to query for their mentions, and then get their feed, put in a query to see which users they can follow, request to follow a specific user, and this is just a catch-all case at the end. Each of these methods performs the logical operations, like when you register, enter the user into the users table that we have defined. When you follow someone, establish the user follower relationship between them. When tweets come out, make sure they're stored and then sent to their respective followers, and so on. I will also give a more detailed explanation regarding this in the README file. Moving on to the client code. The client we decided to write in Python because for the client the primary function was just to be able to provide a menu driven approach where we could log in through a terminal and make the necessary communications. The way of communicating is still WebSockets and utilizing JSON. So here we can see that the URI of the server is specified and we are connecting to it via the WebSocket. And as we saw in the simulation, you have this initial option to register or to log in, and here and down the line you will also see the same options for the subsequent menu once you are logged into the system. Here you can see, based on the user's input, we prepare our JSON message as in a JSON structure. We take the dump of the JSON and prepare a JSON object which is sent across the WebSocket, and then we wait for the response. Once we get the response, we take the JSON response and load it into our local JSON response, and we can subsequently display the necessary information based on the type of back and forth on the client side as well. So this is the initial register or login section. As we scroll down, we will see the internal menu where you have the options such as tweeting, getting your feed, trying to retweet, trying to follow a user, search for hashtags, and so on and so forth. We also have a flag which keeps us in this menu indefinitely so that the user can stay online and continue to communicate for however long they want, but once they log out, we have a flag which exits us out of the loop, and then which will subsequently complete our event, and that will close our connection to the server. And this is a brief overview. The README will also contain an explanation and potentially a little bit more of the logic, but the code can be looked at and the logic understood. The core of the communication mechanism can be seen here. Thank you.